Hello, everybody. This is the Journey podcast. With me today, my partner, Lambro, who's a loan officer with Gid Mortgage. So, in this podcast, we'll be basically talking to you about real estate, home ownership, entrepreneurship, and most importantly, mindset. So, Jake, would you please tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah. Jake Lambro, Guild Mortgage. Been a loan officer here for 3 years. I got into the market when rates were 2-3%. I'm now in the
Easy
market
money.
where rates are 6, 7, 7.5, maybe even 8%. So although I haven't been in the industry for very long, I feel like I have been in for a long time just because I've seen basically a full cycle, right, of rates from 2 to almost 8. So I've been through a decent amount. I know there's still a whole lot that I'm going to be going through, but this podcast is called The Journey. So we're going to talk on, we touch on real estate, mindset, all that stuff, but just the journey. I think there's really good real estate agents out there. None of them have documented what their journey are. They get to the top and then they tell you what you should do. I think it's cool that we have the idea of maybe we're not at the top yet, but here's the journey of what we're doing, how we're doing well, what we're messing up on, and how we need to be better, and just documenting the experience so somebody else in our shoes or maybe one day going into our shoes has like a baseline or at least something they can take a look at to be like, oh, these guys did this. Maybe I should do it that way. Maybe I shouldn't do it that way.
Yeah, definitely. But also just talking to the people out there who are not in the industry, but they are wanting to maybe buy a home. We'll be also sharing not only tips, but information to help them being educated to understand exactly how to purchase a house or how to get into a home, what to look for, what to expect, what are the qualifications and all of that. And my name is Herve. I'm a real estate agent. I got into this industry just a little over 12 months, just a little over a year. And I got into the business when the market was super difficult, like 6% interest rate. So I had to learn and navigate the business through what I would say the most difficult markets.
Definitely.
Yeah, but I am originally from DR Congo. I moved to the US 8 years ago to basically chase my dream. I would say dreams because I have plenty of them. So through this podcast, I'll be also sharing with people my story, my journey, and how I went from coming from Congo to getting into real estate and just learning the business and killing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah. So what would you say the difference was when you got started and now? And how would you describe that market shift and the waves?
Yeah. I think there's two types of markets. There's a low interest rate, high price, and then there's a high interest rate, not as high price, still high price because we're in Washington, but not as high price. So a lot of people are saying it's not a good time to buy when interest rates are high. I gotta say, it might actually be a decent time to buy. When interest rates are 2 or 3%, none of my realtor partners bought a house themselves. They had clients that did, but they themselves didn't. Now that rates are 6 and 7, I have a bunch of real estate agents actually buying houses. So those are the people in the trenches in this line of work.
Yeah.
If they're buying a house right now, even though the media is saying it's not a good time to potentially buy a house, I think going off of the actions of the people that are in the industry that you're looking into tell the whole entire story. So they're the ones buying. It might be a decent time to buy. So when rates are 2 or 3%, a $600,000 house, your monthly payment's going to be low, but you probably have to offer $700,000. It doesn't appraise. It appraises at $600,000, the actual list price, and then you have to come up with that $100,000 difference.
Which most people don't have.
Who has $100,000 in their pocket?
so-
I don't.
Yeah.
Now, rates are 6 or 7. Your monthly payment doesn't look as good. We have products to help with that temporarily. But that $600,000 house is actually going at $600,000. And in fact, you can actually get some credit back from the seller to pay for your closing costs. But that house is at $600,000. You put your 3.5% or 3 or 5% down, and it actually appraises at $600,000 as well. So you don't have to make up any gaps. So you actually get to come to the closing table with just your down payment, which makes houses much more affordable now than they even were back then, because people can live with a bad monthly payment temporarily, but not everyone can live with their cash to close or their down payment being $100,000+.
I mean, that's a huge misconception that most people have. They feel like the longer they wait for the interest rate to come down, the market will still be the same. I was reading, I believe last night or last week, that every time interest rates get better by 0.5%, 1.4 million buyers get into the market. Right. So not only you are competing with a lower interest rate with a bunch of people, but like just having all these buyers into the market shopping would automatically increase the purchase price.
Yeah.
And then you will see. So I have a guy that called me the other day wanting to list his house, and he bought it last year. Interests were kind of like between 5 to 6%, but the market was super hot. So people were waiving inspections, appraisal, offering, over asking. So in his situation, he ended up offering about 50,000 more in Tacoma, Washington. And now he wants to sell the property. But since the property was bought for this much money, there is no way for him to have the property appraised.
So he's almost upside down.
So he's upside down. He cannot get rid of the property. He's moving out of state.
Because he's going to have to sell it and owe money, which is not, real estate is an asset. You're not supposed to owe money after you sell it.
Yeah, so this is exactly what's going to happen. Like next year, for example, if we get like 1% better, most people who are waiting now will be back in the market. And the competition will be super, super brutal. And what's going to happen is, since you are competing with, let's say for one house, 10, 11, 12 people.
Well, you're competing with an extra 1.4 million people.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
If rates are better.
So you have to overbid yourself. So if you're looking at like $600,000 home, next year you'll be basically buying it for like $700, $720. But as you said, you have no guarantee that property will actually appraise for that much.
Yeah, your purchase price is permanent.
Yes.
Your rate is temporary.
Right.
Buy the house now for a cheaper price, refinance later to a lower rate and smaller monthly payment.
And another good play will be basically lenders are offering a bunch of options like a 2-1 buy down, 3-1 buy down. For someone who's really scared to buy a house now, you have all these options, right? So if the monthly payment is the issue for you, you still have a chance to have like a temporary lower monthly payment.
Yeah.
But then next year, if you feel like interest will be getting better, then when interest get better, you can refinance the house, then get an even better monthly payments. But then you are going to save like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. One strategy that's been working for you and I think, is getting clients in front of the numbers. Right? Everyone thinks interest rates are high, so they don't even look to see what the monthly payment's going to be. Their friend said it was high. The news says it's going to be too high, so they just don't even bother. We get our clients in front of the numbers, maybe even if they're skeptical of buying in the first place. We show them what the numbers are. We do a 2-1 buy down. We do a 3-2-1 buy down, whatever it is, permanently buy down the rate. I don't know, whatever it is, but we show them the numbers and we navigate purchase price, program, down payment, all those things to meet and match their goal. And more often than not, we can get it to where it makes sense for them. Right.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, what they're looking for is for how much money can I afford to pay for this every single month, right? As long as that part of your equation makes sense, there is no reason not to buy a house. And most people, they feel like they cannot pay for a mortgage, but then when you show them all these numbers, they're like, oh shit, I can definitely afford it.
Yeah, it's not nearly as bad. Yeah. Like on the 2-1 buy down program, just to throw some ballpark numbers out there, 2-1 buy down program on a $600,000 purchase, you're saving like $800 a month the first year.
That's a lot.
Right. So even if your monthly payment is quote unquote high, or what you think is going to be high, imagine whatever that number is in your head, subtract $800, also take into consideration your current rent in a year from now is probably going to go up a certain percentage, right? I think it's pretty safe to say if you're paying $2,500 in rent next year, could be at $2,800. It's not that far-fetched. So probably a decent idea to start building equity, get yourself into a property, especially buy it now at that $600,000, rates go down to 4, that $600,000 worth $750,000.
Yeah.
Refinance, take out some of the cash, your monthly payment's even lower because the rate's so much lower, even though you took out some money, and now you have a lower monthly payment and you have $100,000 in your pocket.
Definitely. But also in this market, everybody knows interest rates is the one killer, right? people are like sellers, they know that. So when you're in front of a seller, they are actually more open to negotiate
Right.
and to make the deal work. Like, how many times did you get 40,000 credits on our deals, right?
Well, funny enough, so when I first got in the industry, first I was naive, I didn't know a whole lot. Second, rates were 2 or 3%, so sellers had all the power.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what a seller credit was. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know the seller could pay for closing costs because I was thinking to myself, why the heck would the seller pay for the closing costs? Because the buyer wants to buy their house, right? Now, I hardly ever see a deal where the seller doesn't at least cover closing costs. Now, usually it's closing costs plus temporary buy down plus, mortgage insurance.
Right.
I mean, they'll pay for a whole slew of things. Like we've done a deal, was it $40,000 that they $42,000 in credit, and we used it all to make their monthly. I mean, their loan amount was like almost 800 grand.
Right.
That would be a high monthly payment.
Yeah.
That'd be like a $7,000 monthly payment.
That's
We were able to get it down to
48.
$4,800. So
they-
basically half of what they thought it was.
Yeah.
So it goes back to get them in front of the numbers, show them what potentially can be done, negotiation, getting the seller credit at a purchase price that makes sense where it still appraises, and you can get a deal done.
Yeah.
And you could become a homeowner now instead of waiting until 1.4 million more people come into the market.
But even when the property doesn't actually appraise in this market, again, sellers are willing to negotiate. So we are closing on the deal tomorrow. We were able to get 33,000 in our sellers credits, but then the property appraised 10,000 less than the purchase price. So we had to go back to the seller and Mr. Seller, this is the situation. We have to lower the purchase price. So we did lower the purchase price, and still they gave us the 33,000.
Right, because usually they would strip it out, right? Because we didn't waive the appraisal.
Yes.
So they tell us what basically their terms are, but our terms are we're not staying in this deal if you don't give us our terms here.
Definitely.
And then you have to go back on the market.
With no guarantee.
Rates were 6.5. Now they're 6.875. Let's say they went up a little bit. There's not a whole lot of buyers out there because buyers don't know what our buyers know.
Right.
And you're going to have that thing on the market and it's going to sit there and you're going to get an offer below list price. You're going to have to wait another 30 days. Same exact thing could happen again. It was way smarter of them, and I'm glad they did it.
Yeah.
Just taking $10,000 less.
Right.
But I mean, it hits your point. Buyers are in power right now.
Not only they are in power, but I feel like having a higher interest rate comes in with I would say this market comes in with like a blessing and a curse. A curse in the sense of if you are not able to get those options, like not everybody can qualify for the 2-1 buy down, for example, then you won't be able to afford the monthly payments. But in a scenario where most people are able to qualify for those programs, you are in the power. That's a blessing, right?
Right.
You can literally get a lower. We got our buyers last week 5.5 interest rates and get them exactly the monthly payment they wanted.
Right.
But at first they were like, we are not moving forward because we cannot afford this. But when you show them the numbers, that listen, you are not paying 28 on your rent, and you wanted a monthly payment of 37, but we got you a dream home with a 36, 37 monthly payment. That's a blessing. Right. And projection next year, for example, or 2 years from now, if interest rate gets like 1 or 2% better, you can still refinance your house with a permanent interest rate. Not only that's going to lower your monthly payment by reducing the interest rate, but you can also knock off the PMI if your property goes up.
Which it will if interest rates go down. So
Definitely.
they're going to be saving $200 on their monthly payment, let's say, and then $300, not even $200 on their monthly payment, probably $500 on their monthly payment, and then $300 on mortgage insurance. Now their monthly payment is $800 less, and they got the property for $150,000 less than what somebody now is probably shopping in the same neighborhood for.
Definitely.
So I have so many buyers right now that aren't willing to look at the numbers, that, it's just call consultation. Oh, I think I'm going to wait on the sidelines. I'm looking around 650. It's like, man, step to the side with everybody else because that is what everyone is doing.
It's like everyone is on the sideline, like literally everyone. Even this market, we are still seeing more and more and more and more multiple offer situation, right? 2 weeks ago, we lost on an offer. We were competing against 11 people. And we came up top three with everything, literally.
Yeah.
But it came down to someone just overbidding us, just overpaying because they had more cash to spend.
Right.
They didn't really care or give a shit about whether or not the property would appraise. They had the cash to cover the appraisal gap, which we couldn't afford because our buyer were kind of tied with cash. So even this market, people are still overpaying. So just ask yourself a question. I'm waiting for next year for interest rate to get 1% or 2% better for me to go out and start buying, shopping or buy a property. But in this exact moment, people are overpaying at
So
70% interest rate.
imagine, yeah. Well, the reason they raised the interest rates was to hopefully not the only reason, but to hopefully slow down the real estate escalating. And it has worked on most properties, but on those hot properties, there's still buyers out there. There was one you offered on, wasn't there like 35 or 25 or something?
35 offers.
35 offers
Yes.
on a single property when the rates are 7%.
Yeah.
If rates go to 4%, that 35 turns into 105. And if you as a buyer think you have a chance with 104 other people, you're crazy. Unless you have $1 million cash and you're closing in a week.
There is no way. There is a say that I've heard a lot on social media that says marry the home, date the rent, something like that. It's kind of stupid, but it's true, right? Yeah. When you find your perfect home, interest rate can always vary. You can always refinance your house multiple times if you want to. You can always get different interest rates. You can always structure your interest rates the way you want and change it over time. But the price you pay for the house, this is what is permanent, right? Would you rather pay 100,000 cheaper on a property and have a 7% or 6% interest rate, or overpay 150 and get a 5% interest rate?
Yeah. And you actually show buyers those numbers, and the monthly payment really isn't that much different.
No.
Right? If you're at a 6% interest rate on a $500,000 house versus maybe that house then sells for $700,000, but you're at 1% lower in interest or 2% lower, your monthly payment's going to be a little bit higher, but it's not by a whole lot.
No.
It's certainly not by a whole lot. And then let's say your neighbor waits and you don't. You bought at 600, they bought at 700. Yes, your monthly payment's higher by a little bit, but once you refinance to the rate they're at, you have the exact same, basically close to the exact same monthly payment, but you paid $100,000 less.
Right.
Yeah.
So now or tomorrow or yesterday is the best time to buy a house. If you can afford,
as soon as you're qualified.
Yeah, as long as you qualify, as long as you meet all the requirements, as long as you can definitely afford the monthly payment.
Yeah.
I would say don't be afraid like purchase a house, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to the affordability. Would you be able to afford that monthly payment? Would you be comfortable spending $4 grand a month easily on the house? If your income qualifies you, go for it. Why not?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are just afraid of what could happen if they talk with the lender or realtor. The worst we can do is say not yet.
Yes.
And we'll even put you on a plan of what needs to happen. Let's say your credit's low. Okay, we have credit repair options. Let's say you don't have the down payment. Here's a saving strategy for the next 6 months. Hey, we actually do need rates to come down. Okay, we'll check on you every single month and let you know what we're seeing in the market. But the worst we can ever say to you is not right now. That is it.
Plus, you don't have anything to lose to know your options, right? Yeah, when a client comes to us, they will go through the pre-qualification process. Then at the end of the application, the lender will say, okay, this is a situation and these are the options.
Right.
Which one makes the more sense to you? Then it always comes down to the buyer to decide, okay, I see my options. Okay, I'm going to go for this option. Then we are going to help you navigate through the process of making that option come true.
Yeah.
Whether it is buying now or coming up with a plan on how to fix your credit score, basically, or maybe a game plan on how to raise the down payment, or even give you a scenario. If you buy now with 0% down, this is what it looks like. If you wait a little bit more to save up down payment, that's going to be your situation, right? Then they will have to decide. The worst thing that's going to happen is for you not to just have no, right?
Just a no. Yeah. And I don't think people know how we get paid as real estate agents and as lenders. And as a buyer, it's a beautiful thing, because as a lender, my company pays me, so you don't pay me as the buyer. And as you as a real estate agent, the seller pays for all
Definitely.
your commission.
Yeah.
So if you're a buyer that's wanting to have a conversation with a real estate agent and or a lender, you get to do so for free all the way through the transaction. We work for you. You don't owe us any money, not only not at the start, but not at all through the whole entire
Yeah.
transaction. So if you ever
That's
feel like
beautiful.
you're bugging us
No.
or you don't want to waste some of our time, it's free and we want to help.
Yeah.
So just ask the questions that you want to ask, or if you don't know what questions to ask, at least set up a consultation. We'll take you out to coffee and we can talk about the steps, the process, how close you are to qualifying. If you are qualified, here the next, the game plan moving forward. If you're not qualified, why you're not qualified and what we need to do. But don't think you can't approach us because one, it'd be too annoying, or two, it'd be too expensive, because neither of those things are true.
Right. That also goes with all the people. I mean, let's assume some people will still have to wait until next year, right? It's even better for you to know your situation now, so you can have a better game plan when the time comes around. Because comes next year, when everything starts to cool off, some people are already getting ready, right? You are going to compete against 50, 100 other people who are already ready, who already know the situation. They are like, okay, next year in March, this is going to be my situation. That is my game plan from now on to March.
Yeah.
So if you're a buyer out there waiting for the market to cool off, that's cool. If that's what's better for you and the family, that's fantastic. But the best thing you could do for yourself and your family is at least to know what are my options, right? Am I going to be able to qualify for that house next year? What tells you be qualified for the house? But then if the answer is no, if the answer is like in March or maybe next year, you won't be able to qualify for the house for this and this and this reason, now you know exactly what to do to get ready.
Well, I think humans are creatures of habit, right? So whatever you're currently doing, good or bad, you're probably going to be doing in the future, unless somebody tells you that's probably not the right thing to do.
Right.
So if you're somebody that has a bad credit score and has behavior of consistently keeping your credit score bad, if you don't talk with a lender or a realtor, one, you might not even know your credit's bad. But if it is bad and you do know it, you probably don't know how to change it and are not going to change it.
Right.
So if you, like you said, if you want to wait for rates to get better, cool, do it. But talk with the lender, talk with the realtor now, so you can at least strategize on when you are ready, that you'll be ready. Because the last thing I want to have happen is I call somebody, they say they want to wait a year, and then I hop on the phone with them a year later and they want to get approved. And then I have a year credit repair situation for them. Right. So now it's a 2-year. Yes. And it's like, well, shit, we could have been working on that the whole year. And we'd be ready right now.
And then a $600,000 house you are trying to buy next year would be like $850
in 2 years. Oh yeah. It's at that point, you're probably done. You're a renter.
So instead of waiting, there are two options. You can look at the situation now to see whether or not you qualify, if your income lets you do it, to get a house now. Or you can still look at your options to make a good game, to come with like a solid game plan comes next year.
Yeah.
So that when 2024 comes around, you are fully ready. You know exactly what to do.
Right.
Yeah. It's just like a quarterback going to a game without having a game plan.
Yeah.
You'll be screwed.
Yeah. I'm worried about the American dream of home ownership in the future. I think there's a shorter window of time than what people are thinking to actually achieve the dream of home ownership, right? If house prices are still rising at 7% interest rate in a high inflation time where everything's expensive and people are still able to afford these houses, man, that means house prices are going to go up and up and up for the foreseeable future. And there's nothing that's going to stop them. And they're going to go up really exponentially as rates come down. So if you're in a situation right now where you can buy, not only might be a good time to consider, but you could be approved now for a house, and when rates get lower, you might actually not be approved because appreciation has gone up so high. You could then not be qualified even if rates are better.
Right. I feel like one of the things that really stop most people is just, I wouldn't say fear, but I would say lack of information, right? I was also a victim of it. Like when I purchased my first house, I didn't even know I could ever buy a house in America, right? That was back in 2019. I was working for a catering company at SeaTac Airport. Just got promoted to a manager position, and I was making like 6 figures. Then one day I was just having a conversation with my boss, and he asked me, "Oh, do you have a house?" I said, "No, boss. How do you even buy a house?" And
Yeah, what is that like?
yeah, I was like, "What do you mean you have a house? You pay me like 105. How am I gonna be able to buy like a 400, 500 house?"
Right, because you think you have to pay for it all cash.
Of course.
Yeah.
I didn't know, right? Then he said, no, you just talk to a loan officer. He's gonna help you find a house. I didn't want to sound stupid in front of him, but I didn't know who the hell a loan officer was.
Right. Loan.
I was like, all right. So there was a guy in my community who was a loan officer. Then I reached out to a few people who already purchased houses. Then I asked them, who helped you find the house? Then they introduced me to the loan officer. I called him. He was nice enough. He came to my house the same day. He brought his computer and he filled up an application. Rather than then, he asked me for a few documents, my W-2s, my pay slips, and my personal information. I gave it to him. And then he told me, "Oh, you can purchase up to 350." I was like, "Holy shit,
Yeah.
350? Okay." At the time, houses were like 300, 280.
Right.
Yeah, and like
So you're like, I could get
yeah,
just about anything.
I was looking down south, like around Federal Way and 5 Tacoma area. Then I said, okay, 350. Now what? Then he said, no, you have to find a real estate agent. I said, bro, I don't know shit.
Yeah, they got to explain it to you like you're 5 because you don't know anything.
Yeah. So then he introduced me to another person, which I respect a lot. We talked. Then he was like, okay, I'm going to set up a home search for you. And you are going to start receiving this and this and this and this and that. If you like something, let me know. We are going to see it, make an offer. Then that's it. And the beauty of it was I had cash in the bank that I could use for down payments, like 3.5. I was using FHA loan. But the minute the guy said, in your situation, you are first-time home buyer, you can use 0%. I say, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I ain't spending shit. Like my money, it's in the bank. I'm not gonna use this. So I was able to get my first house for almost 300,000, 0% down, just by having someone to give me the proper information, and also just by knowing my options. Because when I called the guy, I just wanted to know: am I gonna be qualified or not? Am I gonna be able to afford my mortgage or not? Right. So bought a house like about 4 years ago. I would say, 4 years ago, and now it's almost double the value in this in the same neighborhood.
And without that conversation with your boss, without
No.
that conversation with the loan officer, the real estate agent,
Yeah.
and a lot of people are in that exact situation.
Yeah.
They qualify for a home. They have no idea what it means to get approved for a loan. They don't know what a loan is. So that I think that's one of the reasons why we created this podcast is like, hopefully somebody listens to this, doesn't realize what maybe they're qualified for. And in later episodes, we'll go over like kind of general qualification things to look out for.
Definitely.
But maybe just to spark the interest of somebody that wouldn't think they could purchase a house. Like if somebody's listening to this and thinking, oh, there's still somebody that probably can't qualify. No. Talk with somebody.
Yeah.
You might be able to qualify and now's a great time to buy. You might not be able to buy in the future. Like just talk to somebody. It is free. It could change your life.
Yeah. So when they do talk to somebody, it's only one of these two things. Either you can or you cannot buy. Right? If you can buy, now it's up to you to decide, am I going to be able to afford this monthly payment? Because now I'm qualified. But then if you are not able to qualify for a home, they will let you know why. Now you know exactly what you need to do to get there. So this podcast, this show, however you want to call it, will be basically dedicating ourselves, our time to provide to you the necessary information you need to make the better decision for your family, because it's going to come down to the buyer 100%.
And last thing, if you do talk to a lender and you do talk to a realtor and you end up that you are approved, that doesn't mean you have to transact. It's not like you're on the hook, like you climb up to the high dive at the pool and like you're at the edge and you feel like you have to jump in. No, if you don't want to, you don't have to. You can go back down the ladder.
Definitely. Yeah.
Right.
You can definitely know your options. As you said, just because you are qualified for a home doesn't mean you have to buy. There is no obligation.
Of course.
Talking to us is free of charge. You don't have to talk to us. Just talk to someone you know, right?
Right.
Yeah. Talk to someone you know, that someone you trust, And if you don't know anyone, we are always here. We are going to drop our contact information below. Reach out to us. We are going to walk you through your options. Then you're going to make a decision if you're ready or not.
Yeah, and we're in Bellevue, Washington. If you feel like you're too far away, we have contacts everywhere. So if you truly don't know anybody and you think we're too far away, we have an extensive network of people that are more than willing to help.
In all 50 states.
Quite literally, yes.
Yeah, so this is it for this episode, guys. We are going to see you on the next episode where we'll be talking about how did we get here. We are going to see you next. Thank you, Jake.
Thanks.
And we'll talk to you later.